The man was doing push-ups with a stone on his back. He had a real talent for martial arts, but his master thought he was disabled because he was mute. So every day, the master only let him fetch water and chop wood, and wouldn't teach him any martial arts. One day, the man accidentally wandered into a cave and met an old man who was trapped there. The man would secretly save food and wine for the old man every day. In return, the old man taught him martial arts. Soon, the man learned a lot of moves from the old man. But the old man's martial arts were all about killing, and each move was really fierce. While the man was practicing hard, a nun passed by and hit his hand with a stone. The man immediately chased after her and knelt down, begging her to teach him. But the nun told him to stop practicing those deadly moves. She said she had a way to avoid attacks and was willing to teach him her martial arts. Then, the nun filled a pit with oil and told the man how to practice. She jumped into the pit and showed him her martial arts. Her steps were light and she didn't fall after finishing her punches. The man saw this and jumped into the pit too, but he fell right away. He tried to get up but fell again. So he listened to the nun's advice and worked hard at fetching water and chopping wood to build up his basic skills. With his natural talent and hard work, he quickly mastered the martial arts the nun taught him. Next, the man combined the old man's and the nun's martial arts, taking the best parts from both and fixing the weaknesses. When he finished practicing, he said goodbye to his master and was ready to leave the mountain. However, there was a rule in the Shaolin Temple: you had to beat the wooden dummy challenge to leave. Dozens of wooden dummies stood in 2 rows, and their hands and feet were all controlled by mechanisms. Each dummy had a different way of attacking. At first, the man could handle the attacks with the martial arts he had learned, but soon he got very tired. He had trouble defending himself against the dummy's attacks. By the end, he was completely overwhelmed and got hurt a lot before he finally made it through. Then, as he was about to leave, a huge stove blocked his way. The stove weighed thousands of pounds and was too hot to touch. The man looked at it for a while, and then he walked up and got ready to move the stove with his bare hands. The man stretched out his arms and placed them on both sides of the stove. Then he used all his strength to hold the stove tightly. His arms were pressed against the hot stove, and he endured the pain and kept trying. Finally, he lifted the stove and swapped places with it. When he put the stove down, his arms were burned, but he had passed the Shaolin Temple's test.